Would anybody like to moderate? Has anybody got the agenda in front of them?
I see Lucille waving her hand if she wants to. She's muted though. You're muted, Lucille. We can't hear you
Okay, am I all set now?
now.
Okay. All right. I gotta get the agenda on my telephone then.
All right, well, I'll start. You catch up. Corrections to and approval of the minutes of August 2nd.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I approve.
How about a motion? I made a motion. John seconded it.
I say
In favor?
approve.
Okay.
I think you should amend that motion to include a belated happy birthday to me, because that was my birthday that you guys met on.
You weren't here, were you?
Birthday.
No, I was on vacation.
Oh, see? No wonder we didn't sing. Oh, what a-
All right, it's correspondence, so that's me, and I will start. So I just want to let you know that the master gardener that came and presented last meeting wrote, and she pulled out of the project. And I don't know if it's like because I didn't give her the right information she didn't ask for, but it turns out that the area that she wanted to work is not town land. It belongs to the bank. And apparently that's not what she can do with her grant. So she withdrew her grant. Whether she comes back to us later or I can hook in with her later remains to be seen. She seemed a little annoyed, but you can't really tell from an email. I didn't talk to her. So anyway, she wrote and said that she has withdrawn her grant, so no money, she's not doing it. There's a couple things in the mailbox today. You're all invited to the last Green Valley Taste of the Valley. Senator Murphy sent something asking for what we're interested in. Maybe I'll just tell him. And the meeting dates, I have a request for next year's meeting dates. Now I'm going to continue with the first Monday, every other of the month, although somebody suggested we meet every month. I want to know if anybody wants to change that before I put the dates in.
So Paul and I talked about it, and it wasn't every month, but we talked about maybe during certain times that we have to, like right now, we got a lot of stuff on the table and a lot of things in the air that maybe we have to meet monthly for a time period so that we can keep information and things moving and fresh.
Well, I would suggest that you meet if you want to keep it Mondays, I can't do it. I'm taking a class on Mondays that I'm missing. So if you want to do it, you can work out doing an informal meeting that is not, it's the subcommittee working on the train wreck site. So if it's not a formal trails meeting, you don't need minute files or agendas. So if you want to do it that way, if you want me to reserve Monday night at the town hall, I can do that if you want to meet in person.
So Karen, this is Paul. Yeah, John and I talked, and it seems like during the summertime where things are really busy, we probably only meet a couple times all summer where there's a lot of activities going on, if we got maintenance and whatever. So we were thinking maybe during summer months, we probably would want to meet monthly, and then the rest of the year not somehow, or.
All right, well, I would just point out that we work these out because the first Monday of the month end up being whatever, July 4th holiday. So I'll have to look at where dates fall, but if you want me to add a May and a July meeting, is that what you want?
Sure.
Can I make a suggestion about that sustainable
September's
maintenance?
a pretty big month too, Karen, especially headed into Walktober.
All right.
Maybe what we can do is just add these committees or subcommittees to the sustainable maintenance program, because that is already looking to have at least once a month to do trail work. And if we do that, we're covered. We can just talk about how we plan that trail work or anything that's related to whether it's a hike coming up or whether, whoop, John's got something there. Look at, okay.
Hold it up again. Okay, we already have June, so, okay.
Karen, how many weeks is your course?
It's ongoing until they decide they don't want to do it on Monday nights.
Okay,
So,
Is there any reason why most of us couldn't meet early enough on some of these so that Karen could participate if she wants to and still make her class?
no, my class is 6:30 to 8:30 right now, so it's just, I can miss it once in a while, or who knows, I may not take it again, but it's ongoing. So if Monday works for everybody, keep it that. I don't have to be there. Somebody else can take notes. So what I want to know is, should I reserve the room also? You want to all continue with Zoom? I'll reserve the room, then it's there for us.
Yeah.
John, you're muted.
Yeah,
I could learn how to run a Zoom meeting if we decided to do that, or do we have to go to the town hall? I guess we can't go get a pizza and beer. That's not a good.
No, but what I was gonna say is, we don't necessarily want to tie up an employee every month, and to do the Zoom, somebody else is gonna have to list the host.
Right, meeting.
and
Yeah.
then also if the general public want to attend, they can't attend if we're on Zoom.
Well, yeah, they get, the Zoom link is on the website. It goes with the agenda, and there is a Zoom link. Now, we did have a woman, I don't have her name here, who wrote to me again, Pat, and she said, I'd like to be joined, but I don't do Zoom, and Mike's not crazy about Zoom. So you guys kind of have to decide each month to month whether you want to meet, depending on the pandemic and how safe you feel, and whether you want to be in. I mean, somebody can also open the room up and we can do hybrid meetings if somebody wants to learn how to do that at the town hall.
I'll learn. I need to schedule somebody that can teach me, but I'll learn that.
Okay, I mean, well, let's look into it then and see what we can do. Maybe, I don't know if the new rec person wants to be involved as much as Leslie was, but we really can't ask the town employee to hang around till 7 and then till our meeting's over every week, but they can Zoom in. So, like Tira, so we have to be fair to everybody, and I want to hear your feedback. I'm gonna
Yeah, I
move.
think Brian and I are prepared to occasionally swap off who hosts, whether it be to let you guys into the building or to host via Zoom. But, Brian is living in Tolland, so he is not going to want to drive out if he doesn't have to, whereas hosting on Zoom is super, super easy. Either works for me, since I live, less than a mile from town hall. I got to be frank, I prefer hosting on Zoom, but I am certainly capable of being there to let you guys in. I mean, I attend the meetings most of the time anyway. It's just that I can't quite attend all of them.
So do we stick with our current schedule as regular meetings, and those additional ones that we talked about, having those be Zooms? Because that's filling in that time that we're saying we're missing.
Well, I'm going to reserve the room. I mean, we got kicked out once because they needed the room, but if I don't reserve it, we'll never get it. So I'm going to go ahead and reserve the room for all of those months. Okay.
Okay,
The last correspondence is where I put on the agenda complaint. I don't know if anybody knows Sandra Wallen, but she complained that she said, I would like to know why you would even consider planting an attraction like the train wreck park in the middle of our little residential village. She's the one that was concerned about the parking. So when you hear things about that, just bring the feedback back. I wrote her a diplomatic, nice letter, and I told her to give me her address so we would make sure her driveway was clear this past weekend, and I'm sure we did make sure her driveway was clear, but I don't know which house she's in. So anyway, I respond to stuff like that. So if you hear from somebody, let me know. And I guess I'm up for finances too. So I just want to update you. The last report as of 9/27, we had $6,471.84. And I have since subtracted the bill that came in from the Airbrush Shack for the t-shirts. Even though we're short on t-shirts, we paid him for the whole thing and they're back ordered and coming in. And he charged us only $300 for the decals on the truck, on the trailer. So I just took that out. I've taken out the October Earthworks bill. We made about $800 over the weekend on t-shirts.
Good.
So I added that in, but it's not final because I don't know how many Venmos we have. And John has put in his request for reimbursement for the locks and the keys for the trailer. So grand total, we have about $5,773 left. Any questions? If anybody.
I have a question, and
Go ahead.
so my question is we had allocated for $300 for the stuff that I submitted for today. It was like $145, I think. We do still need to buy straps to strap the UTV in because those are actually Paul's straps. And then we also need straps for the lawnmower. So that, even though I've submitted that money, the rest of that is still able to be used is what my question is, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah,
Because it's going to be it'll be well under that, but we need to buy those straps.
Okay, another
You
100.
allocated the funds.
Yeah.
And a point of order is that we've got to get a hitch, and we've got to get gasoline, and we've got to get motor oil. So those are three extra things. If you don't have enough, I think that Karen just pointed out, we've got enough to pay for odds and ends.
And I think we have enough allocated to get the hitch, to use the mower, and to get those straps, because the straps aren't going to be that much. Even for the heavier duty straps, we're talking like $50, I think. So it's still going to fall within that. I just wanted to make sure that that was still available to use.
Yeah. We don't have to vote
With-
again. Voted already.
Right. My
Okay.
question with the hitch is Paul had measured some stuff and he said about making one. I looked and saw one today, which was way too heavy duty and way too expensive. But if you think you can make one, then I'm not gonna look to purchase one.
Yeah, it looks like it's just a 2x2 square inch tubing, and that should be pretty easy to get. Nothing special. It's got a hole for a pin on each end.
Okay. I won't look to buy that then.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait until we actually hook it up so we get right dimensions and lengths and stuff. See how it fits.
Okay. I will say on the trailer too, it is at the town garage. I gave the key to the DPW director so that they can move the trailer. They don't have access to get in. And he gave me the other key for the UTV, which is in the UTV right now, where it was before.
So I'm sorry, the UTV, they can't get in and run it now if nobody from Trails comes. So you guys have to make sure it gets started every once in a while, through the winter or whatever. Okay,
Yeah, and we do all have access to get in. Those are the keys that I gave out last meeting to get into the trailer. But he's like, I don't have a need to get in there. I don't think he wanted the responsibility of if stuff goes missing, etc. He also told me that once it gets to winter season, that he's gonna park it more behind. I guess they parked that emergency vehicle, the Hummer and stuff back there. So he said, once the snow comes and it's gonna start to fly, he's gonna move it to the back somewhere so they don't have to plow around it and stuff like that.
bless you. Okay, carry on, Lucille. I'm done.
Okay, so
Oh.
you, the lady that contacted you, citizens' comments? You want to leave that with the lady that contacted you?
I'm sorry, that was a complaint. That was under
Okay,
correspondence.
so we're gonna leave, okay, there's no citizens for citizens' comments, are there?
Lyanne? I guess not.
Okay, so the trail of the mower status, the winter maintenance, we already, well, I know some of them discussed it yesterday, so I don't know if you want to add any more, John, or who else was there? Charlie? I know you guys talked about, making sure that there was oil for whatever, and then you had to do something with the gas for the winter months.
So I think we need to make a date of when, if anybody in this, the committee wants to be there, so we can hook that up and go through that and get it started and et cetera, that stuff. I'm just gonna look at my calendar here. Maybe we can figure out a date that we could do that. Saturday, the 23rd of October. Does that work for anybody?
Works for me.
Paul, I know you wanted to be part of that.
Looks good on mine, John.
I'm checking.
Okay,
So far, that looks good on the 23rd.
yeah. So
What-
where do
what
we
time?
want to do that? I would say in the morning, I don't know, 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock,
9, 10.
whatever
Yeah,
time you
that's
think. I'm just throwing numbers, so somebody say a number that sticks.
9 o'clock.
Okay, and do we want to do it, say at like your house, so we have, if we need any tools or something like that, or do you want to do
We
it on the
could do that.
trail or?
What I had talked to John about is we should probably go down with a pickup or something else and take everything out of the old shed and bring it all up. Because we're gonna have to figure out how to mount all this stuff inside the trailer. Some of the thoughts were, if somebody knows somebody with a landscaping trailer, they probably something we can go look at. Because that's exactly what they do. They get all their hand tools and whatever and heavy and equipment. Kind of give us some thoughts on how we can proceed and mount all the things.
I can reach out to that guy that I already spoke with, Donovan. He has trailers and he's expressed interest. He wants to work with us. So if I reach out to him and tell him some of us are going to get together, can he give us ideas? Maybe if we pull it over to Paul's house on a Friday afternoon or Thursday, and it's there on Friday, then he can swing by more easily.
Charlie, I've looked inside both Donahue's trailer and Groundscapes that did the work at my house, and they are probably two very disorganized trailers. To be nice about it.
Actually, there's a lot of nice YouTube videos on that. If you do a search on YouTube on landscaping trailers, there are people that show you how to hook it up and whatever. And everybody has their own thoughts and ideas of how things go. And it all depends on what kind of equipment you have. So, we need to see basically what all the stuff we have and whereabouts it can be, mounted and hooked up.
I would just say, I don't know where else we would put it at this point, but maybe not everything we bought has to be in there all the time, like a post hole digger. If it's a heavy piece of equipment and it's in the way and it's only going to be used for special projects, you might not want to put it in there.
Yeah, one thing that is a problem is we get this huge wheelbarrow. It takes up a lot of space. And I don't think, the only thing we use it for is to put other stuff in.
But I also think that we might be able to hang that right above the spare tire. I'd have to measure it, but with I saw how they hang them, I think it might hang right over that spare tire. So
All right, so
let's talk about it. I say we do research between now and the 23rd. And And we do that kind of thing that day to figure out what we want to do and what we want to put, what we maybe want to hold off to put in there and go from there, and then work with the mower.
Okay, so we're gonna have to get the stuff before then, and then we're gonna kind of work on it once we get all the stuff. You're gonna bring the trailer over like that morning, and we
When do
can,
you want it?
we can do it then. As long as nobody steals it, you know.
So
And
I
we're
think
gonna
I know
have-
where you're kind of going with this, Paul, but do we need to figure out what we want to do on that day before we kind of purchase anything to hang
Yes.
things up? I know it postpones it, but I'm saying, I think the main thing of our day should be that day is to probably figure out the mower and see how it hooks up. See about the tools and what we're going to use for a system, and then go from there.
I agree. Then once we figure out what we need to do, we can buy whatever it takes to mount it. Okay,
I agree.
Okay,
Do you need to vote more money for that stuff now?
I would say at some point, but I mean, although we will wait till December to vote on the money, but I have no idea for cost. I don't know if Paul does.
so I think we need to kind of see what we need first before we do that.
okay. Moving on to events. The relay race in August 28th. Brian, were you at that?
I
Brian,
was,
I
and
was
so was
not.
John.
you were?
I was at Ferry Fest. I was not at the race.
Okay, so who was at that event? Charlie?
That's correct. I was there and so was John.
Okay. Do you want to report on it?
Go ahead, John.
So I'll say everything went well with it, but that's again addressing this parking lot stuff. That's why it really put an emphasis on it, because there were so many cars everywhere. I think we need to ask for a little bit more help from the fire departments or somebody to direct traffic. They had a trooper there. He parked his car and put on his lights for us, but he didn't really do anything other than that. The fire department, there was 3 of us there. We directed all the traffic. So there were a lot of people through there, and they were very happy with us and the support that we gave them. But like I said, there's so many people. It's just kind of crazy there with it being an exchange point. And then people are in and then out, in and then out. But as far as their times, it was over half an hour before they said it was over. The last runner came through. So they're very organized.
Now, where were you along this event? Where were you, in Thompson? Were you in Putnam?
Thompson, we were all right on East Thompson Road at the S corner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
All
was,
right.
I was one
Oh, so
of the
they came
time
from the
checkers.
airline.
I missed
was
what you
one
said,
of the-
Lucille.
They used the airline trail?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay. All right, so we're on to October 3rd, Chester Day. I think it went well. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree.
I know, did you find out, Karen, if the, what was that called? The unit the phone number that we used for the town hall, did that work?
I don't know yet.
Oh, okay,
Venmo.
I dropped the phone off, but Orla's got to check the number of, we sold between 30 and 40 t-shirts, but I don't think all the Venmos got written down because the number of shirts in the inventory, it didn't tally exactly with the money and how many were marked off. So I don't know exactly, but I think there were like 5 Venmos that went through between the 2 days.
okay, so I'm thinking we either did 3 or 4 yesterday, and that was it.
That's what I calculated. Okay.
Okay,
And we did one on Community Day. I only did one.
okay, so that would be the 5. Okay,
But I don't know. if
Is the
money-
reason that you didn't take more Venmos because you couldn't get connectivity?
No, anybody who just typed it in, but I couldn't check that the transactions were going through. So I have to wait for Orla to check that and see if there were indeed 4 or 5.
Well, at least two of the
Okay.
people said to me, when they used that Venmo, whatever it was, they said, yes, it went through. They were able to say that it went through, but I didn't know what I was looking for, so I wouldn't be able to tell, but, but I
No,
like,
Tara, we had no signal there, so we couldn't check it.
yeah,
But other
Okay.
than that, I think it was great. I thought Tom Chase did a wonderful, wonderful job.
well, he.
Everybody
probably
I
knows
talked
that-
to seemed happy.
Yeah,
The only problem were the motorcycles during the music and the lawnmower, right?
the lawnmower, yes. I wonder if that was strategic. You know, I mean, who knows?
Hey,
But-
it's tangential to trails, but that may in fact have parlayed itself into a pretty cool grant opportunity for the Historic Society. Scott Wands was there from CT Humanities, who are the funding organization for the signs. They have a grant open right now for nonprofits and humanities organizations like the Historic Society for all kinds of upgrades and support. And I read the notice of funding opportunity today. Every qualified organization who applies will get an award of at least $5,000, up to $500,000.
Oh,
They have
wow.
16 million. They have $16 million set aside for this at CT Humanities, and they are dying to give it away.
Can we get?
So,
We're asking,
don't think-
we're asking.
I don't think I could squeeze another one out for trails unless, well, maybe to do like the turntable stuff. I don't know. It's probably worth inquiring, but I do think that there's some great stuff that the Historic Society is going to be able to do there. So that event led to a partner organization, I think, having an opportunity that they might not have otherwise, paid attention to.
Great.
That's my second grant from CT Humanities in 2 years. And they repeatedly tell me, that guy Scott repeatedly tells me, they just don't get a lot of applications from this corner of the state. So it's good for them to be representing all parts of the state. So if that pattern holds true, I think that that's going to be a good resource for us for all kinds of stuff.
Okay,
Great.
okay, so it's on to October.
John's doing,
I have one on the 16th of October to the tri-state marker, so right in the same area again. But I think I have somebody that's helping me, another ranger that's going to be with me. So, I mean, if anybody wants to come, we'll always take more people. I don't know what time it is. I'd have to look in the book. I think it's maybe 10 in the morning or something.
Let me
My
know if
plan
you
is
need
to,
help. Let me know if you need help. Otherwise,
okay. So my plan is to go up the trail and go down Paul's trail that he's been working on a little bit so we can see the arch, and then head up to the tri-state marker from there, and then come down the way that I used to come up. That comes out back on the airline trail further up, and then coming back down the airline trail. So I don't think it's going to change it as far as mileage. I think it should still be about 2 miles.
That's not bad. Okay, Brian, you're on. Happy chat.
Okay, I'm on. I have to keep muting this because of the puppy. Yeah, I'm not free the 16th, John. I'm doing Tackle the Trail on that day. Turkey Trot, for those who haven't heard the update, we're nearing the end of sponsorship season. There's still, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4. About 8 sponsors from last year that haven't sponsored this year. Brian Levenice's office, mostly him, have been making the calls. I don't know if we're getting additional money. Originally, we were aiming for September 15th, which was early, just to get money in early. We let people know that they could still get on sponsorship materials for October 1st. The signs that we're providing this year, the roadside signs with their sponsors' names on it, they wanted most of the stuff in by October 1st. So they have most of the sponsors that they're gonna, that are in. So if we have a few that come along after, I think they'll be able to add them in. Brian Levanese has been in touch with Dave Labs. He really only needs a final list by October 24th. So we can still add sponsors in and get them on marketing materials. The sponsors to date, the biggest loss, of course, was Thompson Speedway, who will not return as timing sponsor this year, but will consider coming back next year. That was a $1,500 loss. The biggest gain came from, although the check is due this month because they had to do it in October, Day Kimball, who will sponsor the children's event. And so we picked up $750 there. And Brian Santos at WT Rich doubled his amount from $500 to $1,000. With additional new people that I was able to get a hold of, one significant one, thank you, Tara, with the connection to Lord Thompson Manor, who gave us $500. Our current balance, counting Day Kimball's total, is $9,975, and I want that 10,000.
I told you I 50.
Okay, there's my 10,000. Thank you, Karen.
Yay!
No, I thought you said you were going to contribute directly to trails if you're going to do it. So I appreciate
No,
that,
no,
Karen.
I'll do 50. That's 10 from me, 10 from David.
Oh,
and
that's,
I'm covering John.
you're covering from the committee
John,
members.
Right.
I had
And off.
asked Karen to mention that it would be nice if more people on the committee besides Mr. Lajeunesse, myself, and Lucille were contributing. So she's helping out and covering you guys. So that'll bring us over 10,000 without Thompson Speedway. But again, I'm hoping for a few more. Even Amanda, the new assistant in Brian's office, her family's supposed to be coming aboard as well. Last year, of course, every year I've been doing this, we've increased the amount. Last year's amount was $8,750. So we've already, without Thompson Speedway, brought in $1,300 more than last year. So it's been quite a success. I think some people, again, were more willing to help, knowing that they didn't do it last year and these organizations didn't have money coming in. And some of the others that haven't come back this year might still be struggling a bit with their financials. So, and there's a few people I approached this year for the first time that maybe didn't come on board that I'll be able to pressure a little more next year. So good shape on that. Again, a lot of the other stuff comes out of the recreation office. I've been talking a lot to Brian, making sure he understands the deadlines and the focuses. We're going to have another meeting for our subgroup. We have not had much success at getting a meeting date where we've all been able to turn out. I don't know if that's going to change. Our last meeting, I know John was busy with the fire thing, and so it was me, Brian, and Joanne from Teague, but that was the first meeting we had Joanne in on. So since Leslie's meeting, we really haven't had more than 3 or 4 of us talking about it. So it's getting down to crunch time and planning time. There's some things that I know we have to work out. Kate Anderson, good seeing her at the community day. She wasn't sure if she was going to be able to have the singers out at the turkey trot. So I'm hopeful that'll happen. I have Brian trying to coordinate exactly how the ambulance system is going to work because of the upheaval with the community department, and they are our backup ambulance. We might have an issue with having a photographer. David, if you're there, I know I spoke to you yesterday, and he might have some issues with being able to do it this year. So
You can't do it.
it's definite. Okay.
Yeah.
I know I've already, I mean, I don't know if the interns can do it because Zainab usually does stuff like that, but I don't know if she can do a weekend thing. And I've already reached out to Jeff Bolte, but he was actually planning to run the event that day. So I don't know that he can take pictures while he's running. That might be an inconvenience, but he hasn't ruled himself out yet as maybe being able to help us out with that. Obviously, we have to get all the trophies set up. I don't know where we're at with publicity or a Winnie date. Again, that's something else that always happened out of the recreation office. Between John and myself, we have walked the trail separately. I managed to go the wrong direction, but that part of the trail he did walk on. We still have trees that are down. There's only one that's actually in the way of the course, and I took a picture, sent it to John because I had my wife stand next to it. Someone running through it would have to duck under it or hit their head, and for a taller runner it could be a problem. There are several lying on the ground that people could run or step over, but John has also been in contact regarding that. Karen?
With the Army Corps.
With the Army Corps, correct, John?
Okay.
So I just sent them another email today,
Okay.
and I sent it to everybody. So hopefully I should hear something within the next few days.
Other than that, the water is in great shape. I have my video. The water issues are in great shape. Well, I got a lot of rain today, but with all the rain we've had this year, I was really worried about that. There's a couple sections where it's a little muddy on the track in 3 and 4 foot sections, low-lying areas. But the areas I walked were as good as I've ever seen on the trail. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. And until we have another meeting, I don't have much more. Any of you guys have anything to add? John, Charlie?
Thanks, Brian.
Okay.
We're on to trail update. Trail maintenance.
I sent over a revised draft. Well, I sent over a rough draft of a sustainable maintenance program to everybody, I believe, and then I sent over a revised one to a few people, including Tira. I believe that anybody who looks at it will see that it covers everything that National Park Service or lenders or grant people would be interested in. I've also sent over some photographic images of tool storage schemes like what Paul was talking about, that do-it-yourself kind of stuff. And there's some things, only problem I see, whatever we do, we're going to wind up putting holes in the side of the trailer somewhere to hold it on. But there's some pretty clever ideas here. October, when John and Paul and I get together and figure out how to hook up the machine and start mowing, is the next maintenance thing.
I just want to say, we have other trails too.
I agree.
So
That's why the idea of a QR code on each trail. So a hiker can come in and say, oh my gosh, I found somebody dumped a 1960 Thunderbird here and lit it on fire. They can take a picture, we can find it.
okay, somebody reported to me over the weekend that like the Bull Hill Trail around the soccer field has a lot of trees down, but he said doesn't, bother him because it keeps the ATVs off. So, but we don't know what the status is of, we know the Army Corps is supposedly maintaining theirs, but we haven't really been out on any of the other trails. So if anybody goes, they should take pictures, and maybe we have to do something. I should talk more to Wyndham Land Trust, but
So I do have one as far as a pretty major maintenance is the washout below Route 200 on the airline trail. I don't think it's really within our capabilities to fill that hole with whatever and the, you know, the stone dust that's needed. And I thought the state was going to handle that. It is a state park, but it's been that way for a while, probably 2 months.
Longer than
I
that.
get it.
John, I tried to get official clarification from Deep about that, and they seem to be able to dodge the issue somehow. My understanding is
Who are
that
Charlie, who's
repairs,
acting it deep?
I contacted Lori and I also contacted the park ranger.
Okay.
Okay, Matt, but the point that I got, is that, my understanding is that departments of public works are supposed to maintain the big projects that need to be done. I have asked for a state's agreement, whatever it is that they do with the towns, and I haven't been able to get it. Kira might be able to, because, or Leanne might be able to, but somewhere in Hartford, they have an agreement that says, we're building the airline trail, the towns will do this, the state will do this, and volunteers will do that. And if they don't have it, shame on all of us.
So I don't know, this, am I muted? So I don't
Somebody
know,
just went
do
on
we-
mute, but
Do we talk to, I can't even think, first selectman? Do we ask her? Do we talk to the DPW guy? I mean, I don't know if anybody's actually even been approached about it.
I can tell you that right now, there's pretty much no point in approaching DPW. They have had so many guys out on injury and workman's comp, that major projects got pushed back. You know, they were gonna bump out the end of the Blaine Road intersection as a project that was gonna marry up to the sidewalks. When that gets started, that was gonna be this fall. That's into next spring. I mean, it's kind of par for the course. That's gonna be a constant struggle. It's just gonna be a constant struggle.
Well, let's see if the 12-town task force can help us to get clarification on contractually who is responsible for what. So, yeah, okay, so if DPW can't do it, what are our other options?
So I agree, and that washout's just gonna keep getting worse. If it doesn't get addressed, it's just gonna keep washing and washing, and at some point, that part of the trail won't be able to be used safely. I just hate to see somebody get hurt in there, and then what, you know?
That will bring the
That's
action
that
in.
same spot that's been an issue for a while now, right?
Yeah, but it's really bad this time because all those heavy rains that we got from these storms that we've had over the summer months, really. What it is the water comes off the road and off the bridge up there, and it drops right down on the trail, and then it's got to go somewhere, and it takes all that stuff with it. So now there's like a gorge there.
That's DOT's problem, really. DOT is supposed to, mitigate these kinds of things. And Lori Giannotti gave me the name of a woman who I will reach out to again. She's with DOT, and she and I have spoken.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Charlie on this whole thing. Granted that we don't know how it's actually worded, but you're talking a state park. Okay, we should assist, but it's a state park. Since when are the towns responsible for state parks? But beyond that, most of the erosion is occurring from state roads, even for 395 or 193 or 200. At some point, the state, I would think, I mean, I get the stone dust thing. Okay, it's the town deciding.
So why
what
don't
they're
you
gonna
guys-
finish off with.
Why don't you guys try this from another angle? Why don't you write up a letter on behalf of the committee saying all that stuff about, it is a state park and the damage to the trail is mostly because of washout coming off state roads, but also pointing out that the Trails Committee does in fact have, it does the best with the capacity it has, does a ton on the airline trail at those other ends. But
Right.
it is just beyond the capacity of the local resource. So if it is a sharing agreement, this is what you're asking the sheriff. And I would send that to May. I would send it to May. I would send it to Courtney's office and ask them for an assist getting through to the state.
Sounds like a good idea.
Okay.
Interesting. Even while we were talking, I started to type something up, but now the suggestion, I should address it to May Flexer and to Joe Courtney's office with copies to Ann Bergeron and Lori Giannotti and Matthew Quinn and the 12 Town Task Force, or do it the other way around?
Well, why don't you just send a draft over to Karen to look at as chair?
Yeah.
I got it. It'll be there.
Okay, I also talked to May Flexer yesterday about some of our issues, and she's right on board here.
Can I just add something in? I'm looking in the chat and I think it says that we collected $100 through the Venmo.
Yeah, I texted Orla to ask her, so she checked.
That's perfect. Okay.
All right. So can we go on to the train wreck in the site for the turntable area? Paul, is that your area?
I think we already talked about that because we're going to meet tomorrow at 10 o'clock down at
No.
Town Hall.
No, but the turntable area.
So basically we moved the stones up, as everybody's aware. And so I guess until we get an easement or something from the Butlers, not much is going to be happening right now. We just needed to get the stones out of Putnam because the guy was, he had to get rid of them. He's getting a business put in. So we were able to move those and we got them stored over there. And the Thompson Rod and Gun actually, went with us and gave us permission to stick it behind the fence. And we left the fence open for the show yesterday, and they're going to be putting that back up again to keep, ATVs out, or, I hate to see somebody go in there and put a bunch of graffiti over all those nice big stones or whatever. So we're hoping to, put that back up, and
Okay.
until we get permission to do something over there, things are going to be on hold.
Good. Okay, so we're on to social media, PR, outreach, the maps, brochures, the flyers, the decals, Connecticut Trail Finder. People were very happy with that map. A lot of people took one of those yesterday.
Unfortunately, that is not correct. How much?
Okay,
$2,000.
I'll talk about Connecticut Trail Finder is something new that's coming out of Yukon. And I'm going to work with Charlie. I downloaded a bunch of forms, and each trail needs all this, information put in. So we're going to try to figure out, I might be coming to some of you asking questions, but we're going to, right now, if you go on the website, Connecticut Trail Finder, there's nothing listed yet for Thompson. You can click on any town and whatever people have information they're given, but they're trying to get a comprehensive list of all the trails in Connecticut up on this site. So we're going to work on it.
Good. Okay. Well,
Brainiac.
So for the social media, I'll just say Brian's been posting on both the Turkey Trot and the trails, the update about the Turkey Trot, and you're getting definitely a lot more hits as far as people seeing that, which I think is awesome. So hopefully it generates more runners and or walkers through that. The other part too is we also put those emblems on our trailer. So it kind of brings up something for me. I don't know if, who do we talk to about getting that QR code created to bring it to the town website or to the trails community, whatever. I don't know who would do that. Is that something the town intern does? I just don't know.
Yeah, you can send an email to Renee. She's generated some of them before. I don't think it's hard to do. Probably any of us could figure it out, but she happens to have created some of them before. And it doesn't take but a minute, I don't think.
Because Dave said if we can get one that he would produce it and just, slide by with the trailer and he'd put it right on the trailer. So I know the trailer's not out in the public, but when it is, it's just an opportunity for them to see it, but we can also use it on the trails too.
But what you want is a QR code that links to the website or the Facebook page.
For the website, because that way they can get maps and stuff. I mean, I think it would be nice to put our Facebook information and Instagram information maybe on that. But that's a town site. I don't know how we get that done either.
How to get what done?
Like something on there that says, go see our Facebook page, Thompson
You said-
Trails.
You send me exact words and I ask Renee to put it on our page.
Okay,
That's all.
I'll send you an email about it.
To that point, our page needs to be updated.
I have asked several times.
Okay. Then I'm not going to belittle the point.
I know. The list of people is not right. And when we have an event, it stays up there forever.
Well,
Okay, so
but a while.
I have
Renee is,
to post the agenda in minutes, but I don't have the expertise to fool around with the site itself. So I ask Renee when we want to do something.
Renee is working now on improving the landing page from the QR codes from the Z maps. So she's working pretty hard on that because we went back to our marketing consultant over the summer to help us with that piece. So she's implementing that now. It's kind of clunky for her as a process. Once it's up, it's easier. But it might be as good a time as any to mention that to her again because she's got her head wrapped around that right now.
Okay.
Okay, 12-town task force.
Okay, actually, it's meeting. So I don't remember which committee, Paul, I know Charlie volunteered for marketing, I think. I don't know which one Paul volunteered for, but what Jean Davis is doing is going through each committee and sending links to whoever volunteered, and she's having a series every couple weeks of a meeting of each of those subcommittees. So I have already attended the infrastructure committee, and the results that coming out of that were that there was a choice between two engineering firms, and the people who knew them voted, and they picked one of them. I don't know if anybody knows, Barton and Lugadusi. Anyway, they had $12,000 for design, which is not much. So they didn't get a lot of bids on this project. And so for the 12,000, then they're going to talk to this company and scale down what they're actually going to design as far as looking at the whole trail. So, but anyway, I was not on the infrastructure committee, but the meetings are being very well attended, and she's got a lot of people with expertise on them. The second meeting, that was on September 14th. On the 29th was the meeting of the Environment Committee, which is the one that I volunteered for. And I can't believe the talent that she has recruited for this. I mean, so for her ER team, she's got experts in wildlife, geological survey, public health, drinking water, fisheries, Anzi Rezikevich, birds, bunch of people from Audubon. I mean, the list goes on, wildlife division, a lot of people from the state. So she's putting together these ERT teams and then breaking them down. So there's basically 4 areas along the airline trail that are going to be concentrated on. And one of them, she didn't answer me, I assume it's RN, but one of them is Putnam. So what these teams are going to go out and do is look at the resources, the environmental resources, and how they can best be, I'm going to say exploited, but marketed to bring traffic to the airline trail. So the 4 areas that they're going to focus on is Putnam, how to connect Mashmucket and some land trust land. So they're looking at how they can make connections to other places along the airline trail. The third one is in Hebron, where they're looking at streams and historic sites and species concerns, and in Portland, where they're trying to connect the trail to the downtown area. So so basically these experts, ER teams, are going to be going out and doing this work through November. They'll be putting their reports in December, and then we'll re-meet in January. So things are happening. So there's still an advocacy committee to meet. the Marketing Committee, the Government and Policy Committee, and the Sustainable Economics Committee. So if any of you are not on those and want to get on them, or if you're not getting the mail that you think you should get, you should contact Jean Davis or me and I'll tell her. Questions?
Okay,
So I would like to be on, I don't know which one, but I'd like to know a little bit more about what's going on with that. So I mean, I don't get any emails about any of it.
Okay, well, all right, I'll send you some of what I have, but basically there was one meeting in person before everything shut down. And the people who attended volunteered, they picked which committee they want to be on. And so now she's contacting people and actually setting up these meetings of those smaller groups. Paul,
What were the ones that,
Paul, do you remember which committee you were on?
I have no idea. I didn't get any email from anybody or what. I'm not sure.
I think you were on the list though, for the whole list of people involved. So I thought you were infrastructure, but apparently not.
I don't know.
I was advocacy and infrastructure and economics. There were three things that three of them off of that list that you read that.
Well, the advocacy committee was supposed to be meeting in about 2 weeks from the last one, which was on the 29th. So that should be coming up. And if I can, I'll email her and see whose name she's got.
Okay, thanks.
And John, I'll send you whatever I have. And then if you, I mean, I don't know what you're most interested in, and I don't know where Thompson's already not represented.
okay.
Thompson is pretty well represented as towns go. I mean, I was on the marketing subcommittee, but somehow I landed in that infrastructure call as well. And I know that when we went to that in-person meeting, there were at least 4 of us, Karen and Paul and Charlie and myself, and there might have been somebody else. The NPS folks were there too. So we are definitely getting a lot of input here.
And I make demos at my home. Music is
Isn't
my
Leanne there?
and
Well, I mean,
as
she's
cliche
not
as it may
really,
sound,
and
it
she's
definitely
active
was
with us,
something
but
that helped
not
pull
a
me
town
out of the
resident.
trenches.
But
Yes, I was
Growing up
there.
was
yeah,
kind of
there was a good
difficult for
turnout
me.
of
When
people
I
that
was
are working with
about
this.
9, my mom and dad had gotten divorced. I didn't have
Well,
any friends.
I didn't know they were, meeting. I keep asking about it. So I don't know. If there's enough, there's enough, I guess.
Well, all right, they've been meeting at 8:30 in the morning, 8:30 to 9:30. So if you're still interested.
I mean, I'd like to look and see, because I'd like to know what's going on with it. And
It's not so
All right,
something silly like
okay, so we're on to the trail census.
no, well, Putnam.
Oh,
Just
all
that
right.
There was a Putnam Trails meeting on the 27th. And the only thing I can really say about that, they've chosen Western and Sampson, and in another couple weeks from that meeting, they were going to sit down with the land acquisition guy in Putnam, which is, I guess, a new position, and go over his 5 routes and the traffic analysis. And then they would share that again with the next Putnam meeting, which is November 23rd. So they're working on it. But I wrote to Jean Davis to say that 12-town task force, if they're going to focus on Putnam, then they ought to be involved in this. But I don't know if she's taken it anywhere.
Okay, so now we're at Connecticut Trail census.
I don't have any updated information.
Okay,
Some of you had questions about that temporary counter. And that really, we're saying, why don't we have any say in it? They're just moving it from town to town and doing some kind of a study for the 12-town task force. So it's not permanent, and I don't know how they're choosing their particular spots that they're choosing, but it's not really got anything to do with our figures or anything.
okay, so we're at Agenda items for future meetings. Next business meeting is December 6th.
Anybody?
Ask a
Any?
question. So we are gonna meet and see if we can figure out about as far as putting our equipment in that trailer and hanging it. So that would be something on a future agenda meeting. If we do figure out that in a couple weeks, I'd hate to have to wait, I don't know, a month and a half to figure it out because the trailer will probably be parked in the back and it might be a spring project. So I don't know if we have a special Zoom meeting to talk about just that one thing like we did about the trailer itself.
Sounds good to
Maybe,
me.
like we did about purchasing the trailer, maybe?
You mean to vote money for it?
I guess if you're just gonna let us make the decision about what to do to put it up, it could be for money. We have no idea what the cost would be.
John's right. We don't have any idea, but after what Paul said, I looked on, just did a search for tool storage things. I guarantee you, we can come up with something that will totally solve our problem for less than $250. And I make a motion that that money be allocated to this project. And that way we don't have to wait till November to get it approved again. We can have it all done and parked and everything done.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Discussion?
And
Well,
John, if you want to discuss it with anybody, I mean, you guys are going to be looking at it, but if you want to talk to anybody about it, we're all going to be at the turkey trot.
Okay,
Talk about it after, before, whatever.
We're
Okay.
gonna have this thing at the turkey trot, but maybe by then we can have the tools all hung up too.
it's a little ambitious, but yeah.
Well, at least you'll be able, have a better idea once you've done whatever you need to do on the 23rd. And say, okay, this will work, that won't work, and then in November, we can kind of like go forward rather than wait until spring.
We don't have a November meeting, it's
No, but we're gonna talk
December.
the turkey trot.
right.
So turkey trot is in November.
So Brian, just a thought of, I don't know where you'd want that parked for the turkey trot. So I know we can't use the UTV on their grounds. They already had that discussion. I had that discussion with them 2 years ago. But we can bring the trailer so people could see it.
Yeah, I think that's, from the parking situation, that could be a
I
problem.
know. Do we put it like behind where everybody signs the pavilion? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That's not gonna be
maybe,
out in the
maybe
open.
over in the area where, on the lakeside where we had the porta potties last year, the finish line of the kids event. Because you have the
Yeah,
gate
somewhere
right
like that.
there.
Yeah. Just think about it. We'll figure it out that morning or whatever, but just something to think about.
Yeah,
But you can display the ATV. You don't,
We can pull it out so people can see it. Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't want you to drive it on the grounds. The asphalt that's where, like, not the main one, but the asphalt that goes by Ramsdale Farm, et cetera, they don't want that to be destroyed because they don't really want to pay for it to be redone, so to speak. So
might
they
be
don't
generic
want.
too, John, based on the ATV, because remember when I had mine out with yours, mine has a much more off-road rougher tread than what the towns does, and they might just be assuming, because mine, you can't drive on dirt or grass without tearing it up pretty well.
Right. I had asked them for the fire department's one, which they didn't even ask about the tires. They just said no.
Oh, spoil your fun. Okay, any other agendas for December? None being heard, can we adjourn?
yeah, you can always send them to me, things that come up before, like a week before that I have to type it up, so. I just, before we have a couple minutes, I just want to make sure Tira hasn't come up with any other issues she wants to bring up about,
I don't think so. I
Pricing.
think tomorrow is gonna
okay.
go over the important stuff for the time being. You know, once I have that grant really fleshed out, I'm going to be happy. I mean, it's my most pressing grant right now because it's got the shortest deadline. You know, and I went from thinking, oh my God, I've got forever to put this together. But, you know, given that the butlers can't really talk about that piece until after the 15th, I'm going to be on a short turn again. But if I can get the rest of it more or less ready to go, then I'll be pretty happy.
Tara, one thing that you said earlier that just came back to my memory is about professional tree work. And actually, we do have a figure of $2,500 for a 7-hour shift with 2 people and equipment. How many square feet they could clear would depend on what we do with volunteers in advance. So we do have an idea. We do have an idea.
I've got to talk. I've got to talk to that guy because that sounded totally out of scale to me. It takes $2,500 to take down a single tree.
And Charlie, I talked to him after you talked to him. He was doing a yard. He was doing the Langlois's yard actually across the street, and he's willing to help. But the scope of the work you were talking for that amount of money, he definitely was hesitant about that. He didn't think he could contribute a lot for what you were looking for.
You're referring to Donahue there?
Yep.
Well, we had somebody else that he referred us to who specializes, has a big machine. He says he can come in and clamp the trees and cut them off close to the ground and feed them right into a chipper.
Okay.
David just said that Josh at the transfer station does tree work
On the side.
on the side.
Yeah, I've heard
So-
that too.
Only a little bit, and he's one of the town employees that I have heard is pretty sick right now.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, that's what somebody told me. I don't know how true it is. I heard from somebody else that he's somebody it's nothing to do with the current pandemic or nothing, but he's somebody who's pretty sick.
Yeah, I haven't seen him around in a few weeks.
Yeah, somebody told me that he was sick and that they actually canceled a couple of their roast beef dinners or whatever they call them that they were going to do. So I don't know much. This is what I heard from somebody else, so don't take it as gospel, but I know he hasn't been around too.
Yeah, whoever it ends up being that we get an estimate from, I need a comprehensive estimate, meaning something that's on paper from a guy who's been on the site, seen it, and understands exactly what is being asked of him. Because, you know, it would be great if somebody could do that for $2,500. But like I said, that's the cost of taking down a single tree in a yard. So for site clearing,
when we did meet with this guy, this was just cutting the trees and chipping them. And he has a machine that, like Charlie said, grabs them, cuts them, throws them right in the chipper. He gave options of moving the chips, them taking the chips, chipping right to the ground there. He was there and he did walk the site with us, but that was also, like Charlie said, yep. But he also said with us doing a little bit of the small stuff and kind of lining it up so where he could just pick it up with his machine and throw it right in the chipper.
And is that the same guy that Charlie, you gave me the card yesterday?
It is.
Okay, because his card's on my desk, so I'll get in touch with him tomorrow.
Good. That company
He did
also
walk the site.
recently removed a tree behind the historic town hall. If I understood correctly, Paul will tell us that for sure, but it was a big tree that had to come down carefully.
That is not,
Okay.
so that was the plan. So they actually rented a big crane, but the crane got stuck in the mud. It was wet and they canceled that and the tree's still up and they're gonna wait and probably till later in the year when the ground's frozen.
By the way, they told us that they were booking into November when we met with the guy last month, and we still haven't given him a rough idea. I agree with Paul. a good idea to make sure that we're not cutting down anybody else's trees. See where the back line is, and that's a good tour that we could ask Daniel to look at. But
Anything else?
I'll make the motion that we adjourn for this evening and move on to Turkey Trot.
stay safe. I'll see some of you soon, and I'll see the rest of you at Turkey Trot.
I didn't have a motion. I didn't hear a second to the motion.
I'll second.
Second.
Okay,
No
Done.
debate.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
bye-bye.